The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened slowly, and Ambassador Daniel Marsh took his first step into a room that held the fate of 1,000 worlds. His heart was beating fast, but his face showed nothing. Beside him walked Commander Lisa Grant, her eyes moving quickly across the strange alien architecture that surrounded them. The chamber was enormous. Crystal pillars rose up toward a ceiling so high it seemed to touch the stars themselves. Seats carved from materials that did not exist on Earth held representatives from over 300 different species. Some were tall and thin like silver trees. Others were short and covered in thick scales. A few floated in special tanks, filled with liquids that humans could not breathe. Daniel had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. Humanity had finally been invited to join the Galactic Council, a governing body that had maintained peace among the stars for 10,000 years. It was the greatest honor any species could receive, and also the greatest responsibility. High Chancellor Zorvax stood at the center of the chamber. He was a Valori, one of the oldest species in the known galaxy. His skin looked like polished silver, and his eyes were deep pools of ancient wisdom. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire room without any effort at all. "Humanity," Zorvax began, "your species has been observed for 200 years. You have proven yourselves capable of traveling between stars. You have shown intelligence and the ability to adapt to new situations. Therefore, you are offered membership in the Galactic Council." Daniel bowed his head with respect. "We are deeply honored, High Chancellor." "There are conditions you must understand," Zorvax continued. His silver features showed no emotion. "The Council maintains peace through strict rules. War, as your species understands it, has been removed from civilized space for over 10,000 years. When species disagree, they talk. They negotiate. They make trades. In extreme cases, they send champions to fight in controlled combat. But they do not go to war." Lisa shifted her weight from one foot to the other. She had read the reports about human history that the Council had collected. Thousands of years of fighting. Millions of people killed in wars over land, resources, and ideas. To these ancient civilizations, humanity must have looked like dangerous children who had just discovered fire. "We understand completely," Daniel said carefully. "Humanity has changed. We seek only peace and friendship with the galaxy. Sound like wind through leaves move through the assembly." The Kathrani delegate leaned forward in its seat. It looked like a giant insect with wings that shimmered in different colors. "The military ships we have detected near your territory say otherwise, Ambassador. Your vessels carry weapons that could destroy entire planets." "Those weapons are only for defense," Lisa said quickly. "Earth has many threats in its own solar system. Pirates attack our ships. Rogue colonies sometimes cause trouble. We must protect our people." Zorvax raised one thin hand, and the entire chamber fell silent. "We do not judge humanity for your past. We simply wish to make certain that your nature does not disturb the peace we have worked so long to build. You will be given a mentor species to guide you. The Varelians have offered to help." From the shadows at the edge of the chamber stepped a being that made Lisa catch her breath. The Varelian was nearly 8 feet tall. Blue fur covered its entire body. It had 4 arms and eyes that glowed like liquid gold. Despite looking frightening, its face seemed kind and warm. "I am Counselor Tarvik," the Varelian said. Its voice was surprisingly gentle for such a large creature. "I will help humanity learn the ways of the Council during your first century of membership. I look forward to knowing your people." Daniel and Lisa were led out of the chamber by floating platforms that moved silently through the air. Neither of them noticed the quiet conversation happening in the shadows behind them. The Drakari ambassador was speaking urgently with the Kathrani delegate. The Drakari looked like a lizard made of black armor. Its scales absorbed light instead of reflecting it. "This is a terrible mistake," the Drakari hissed. "Humans are dangerous. I have studied their history carefully. They have fought more wars in their short existence than most species fight in millions of years." "The Council has made its decision," the Kathrani replied, its wings folding and unfolding nervously. "Besides, humans are small, weak. They have one planet and a few small colonies. What danger could they possibly bring to us?" The Drakari's eyes became thin slits. You did not read the same reports I did. These creatures are not like us. They do not fight only for territory or food. They fight for ideas, for pride, for revenge. When they are defeated, they do not stop. When they are outnumbered, they do not surrender. They are relentless in ways you cannot imagine. You worry too much, Ambassador. The Council's peace has lasted for 10,000 years. 2 small humans will not change anything. But as the Drek'Rai watched the human delegation disappear into the distance, a cold feeling settled in its chest. Something was coming. Something none of them were ready for. In the weeks that followed, Counselor Tarvik spent many hours with the human ambassadors. He showed them the wonders of council space. He explained the complex web of treaties and agreements that kept peace between species. He answered their endless questions about technology, culture, and history. But he also watched them carefully. He noticed how their eyes moved, always scanning for threats. He saw how they stood, balanced and ready to move quickly. He observed how they spoke to each other when they thought no one was listening. Discussing strategy and contingencies, these were not the behaviors of a peaceful species. These were the instincts of survivors, of predators pretending to be prey. One evening, as the twin suns of Valeris Prime set behind the crystal spires, Tarvik found Daniel standing alone on an observation platform. The human was staring at the stars, with an expression Tarvik could not quite read. "You seem troubled, Ambassador," Tarvik said softly. Daniel did not turn around. "Do you know how many stars I can see from Earth, Counselor?" "On a clear night away from the city lights, about 5,000. I spent my childhood looking up at those stars, wondering what was out there, hoping that when we finally reached them, we would find friends. And now that you are here," Daniel finally turned. His eyes were tired. "Now I wonder if we were better off alone. At least then, we only had to worry about killing each other." Tarvik felt a chill run through his fur. "What do you mean?" "I have read your history too, Counselor. 10,000 years of peace, yes. But before that, your species went through the same struggles we did. Wars, genocides, near extinction. The difference is, you had millions of years to learn your lessons. We have had only thousands." He looked back at the stars. "Psst, we are trying to change. We truly are. But some lessons are written in blood, and blood does not wash away easily. I hope the galaxy gives us the time we need to prove ourselves. Because if they push us before we are ready," did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Tarvik returned to his quarters that night with a new understanding of humanity. These were not simple creatures to be guided like children. They were something far more complicated. Something that the Council, in all its ancient wisdom, might not be prepared to handle. The Varelian began to write his first report to the Council. He chose his words carefully, knowing that what he said might determine the fate of trillions of beings. The humans were dangerous, but perhaps with patience and understanding, they could become the greatest allies the galaxy had ever known, or its greatest nightmare. Only time would tell. 5 years passed, like water flowing through open fingers. Humanity proved to be eager and friendly members of the Galactic Council. Human scientists worked together with alien researchers on projects that would have taken centuries if done alone. Human artists created new forms of music and painting that amazed audiences across 1,000 different worlds. Human merchants built trade routes that brought wealth to systems that had been poor and wealth forgotten. But not everyone was happy about the newcomers. The Gentari Empire had been watching humanity's rise with growing anger and jealousy. The Gentari had been members of the Council for over 8,000 years, but they had never achieved the kind of influence that humans seemed to gain so easily. Where the Gentari were slow and careful in everything they did, humans were bold and willing to take risks. Where the Gentari made plans that took decades to complete, humans acted within months and achieved results. Emperor Valtos sat upon his throne, made of living crystal. His gray skin was stretched tight over his angular face as he listened to his military advisors give their reports. "The humans have built a research station near our border," General Krath said. He was a large Gentari with scars across his face from old battles. They say it is for studying a nearby star, but our spies believe they are developing new engine technology.
Technology?
That would make their ships faster than ours? Another advisor added quickly. Valtos tapped his clawed fingers against the arm of his throne. And the Council allows this? The Council sees no danger. The humans have been remarkably peaceful since they joined. Of course they have been peaceful, Valtos said with a sneer. They are waiting, building their strength, preparing for the right moment. He leaned forward on his throne. I have studied these creatures. They conquered their own world through violence and blood. They nearly destroyed themselves many times with their weapons. Do you truly believe they have become peaceful? What would you have us do, Emperor? The Council forbids military action between member species. A cold smile spread across the Emperor's thin face. The Council forbids military action between members. But there are always accidents that happen in space. Misunderstandings between ships, pirates who attack without any connection to any government. The Gentari had kept a secret fleet hidden for hundreds of years, ships that officially did not exist, crews that had been removed from all records and databases. Within weeks, these ghost ships began appearing in space near human territories. The first attack came without any warning at all. A human colony transport ship was carrying 3,000 innocent civilians through a region of space called the Kepler Reach. Families were traveling to new homes. Children were sleeping in their bunks, dreaming of the adventures waiting for them. Then the Gentari ghost ships appeared out of nowhere. The transport was torn apart by weapons fire. There were no survivors. No evidence was left behind to identify who had attacked. Captain Kevin Harris received the emergency signal aboard his patrol ship, the Endeavor. He pushed his engines as hard as they could go, racing through space toward the location of the attack. But when he arrived, he found only debris floating in the darkness. He stood on the bridge of his ship, his jaw tight with anger and grief, staring at the pieces of wreckage that had once been a ship full of living people. Any survivors? He asked, even though he already knew what the answer would be. None, sir, Lieutenant Maria Santos replied. Her voice was hollow and empty. Whoever did this was thorough. They made sure no one lived to tell what happened. Kevin had served in Earth's defense forces for 20 years. He had fought against pirates and criminal organizations. He had seen combat and death before, but this was different. This was not a battle. This was a slaughter of innocent people who had done nothing wrong. Contact Ambassador Marsh, he ordered, and gather everything we can find here. Weapon signatures, debris patterns. Every piece of evidence, no matter how small. Human investigators worked day and night to analyze the evidence. Within days, they had identified energy signatures that matched Gentari weapons. The proof was solid. The proof was undeniable. When the evidence was shown to the Galactic Council, everyone expected swift justice, but High Chancellor Zorvax responded with frustrating caution. His findings are not conclusive enough, he announced to the Assembly. The Gentari Empire has been a trusted member of this council for 8,000 years. We cannot make accusations without absolute proof that cannot be questioned. Ambassador Daniel Marsh stood before the gathered delegates. He was barely able to contain his fury. 3,000 of my people are dead. Families, children. The evidence clearly shows Gentari weapons were used. Evidence that could have been created to look that way. The Gentari ambassador replied smoothly, without any shame at all. Perhaps the humans attacked their own ship. Perhaps they want to make the Empire look guilty. The suggestion was so ridiculous that Daniel lost control for a moment. You dare to suggest that we murdered our own people? Enough, Zorvax commanded. The Council will investigate this matter carefully. Until then, all parties will maintain peace. But peace was already dying. Over the following months, more attacks happened. A mining station was destroyed with everyone aboard. A science vessel vanished completely and was never found. A diplomatic shuttle was shot down, killing everyone inside. Each time, the evidence pointed to the Gentari. Each time, the Council demanded more proof and did nothing. On Earth, People grew angrier every day. Protests filled the streets of every major city. Citizens demanded that their government take action. Politicians who asked for patience were removed from office and replaced by those who promised revenge. President Catherine Bell stood before the United Nations of Earth. Her face was set with grim determination as she addressed the assembled leaders. For 200 years, humanity looked to the stars with hope in our hearts. We believed that among the cosmos, we would find wisdom. We would find friendship. We would find peace. She paused, letting her words sink in. Instead, we have learned that some truths are the same everywhere. There will always be those who attack the innocent, those who see kindness as weakness. She looked directly into the cameras that were broadcasting her words to every human colony in the galaxy. The Galactic Council has failed us. They have chosen politics over justice. They have chosen tradition over truth. They have left us no choice but to defend ourselves with our own hands. As of this moment, the human military has permission to take all necessary action to protect our people. Any ship that attacks human vessels or stations will be destroyed without mercy. Any territory that protects those responsible will face severe consequences. Her voice became hard as steel. We did not ask for this war. We did not want this war. But if war is what the Jantari have chosen to give us, then war is what they will receive. Across the galaxy, the alien species who had dismissed humanity as weak and primitive suddenly began paying close attention. Something was happening. Something that had not been seen in 10,000 years of galactic history. The humans were preparing for war, and they were angry. In the military academies of Earth, young men and women trained harder than ever before. In the shipyards orbiting Mars, new warships were being built faster than anyone thought possible. In research facilities hidden throughout human space, scientists worked on weapons that had only existed in theory until now. The Jantari had made a terrible mistake. They had poked a sleeping giant. They had drawn blood from a species that remembered every wound and repaid every debt, and now the giant was waking. Up Counselor Tarvik ran through the corridors of the council hall as fast as his 4 legs could carry him. In his arms he held data tablets filled with urgent reports and warnings. In his 50 years of service to the council, he had never felt such fear growing in his chest. He burst into High Chancellor. Zorvax's private chambers without asking permission first? This was normally considered extremely rude and disrespectful. But Tarvik did not care about manners anymore. You must stop this, Tarvik begged. His golden eyes were wild with worry. You must step in before it is too late for everyone. Zorvax looked up from his meditation pool. His silver face was calm and peaceful. The humans have chosen their path. They will learn, as all young species eventually learn, that violence solves nothing in the end. You do not understand what you are dealing with. Work. Tarvik pushed a tablet toward the High Chancellor with shaking hands. I have spent 5 years living among humans, studying them, learning their history and their way of thinking. They are not like us. They are not like any species in the council.
Nice.
They are primitive, Zorvax said with a wave of his thin hand. Aggressive, yes, but still primitive. The Jantari will defeat them quickly. Then both sides will accept our judgment and make peace. The Jantari will not defeat them. Tarvik's voice trembled. High Chancellor, humanity has fought more wars in the past 3,000 years than all council species have fought together in our entire history. They have developed weapons we cannot even imagine. They have created strategies that make no logical sense but somehow work perfectly. Zorvax's expression changed just slightly. A small hint of concern appeared in his ancient eyes. What exactly are you saying? I am saying that humanity does not know how to lose. Tarvik began walking back and forth, too nervous to stand still. When humans are backed into a corner with no way out, they do not give up. They do not surrender. They adapt. They find new ways to fight. They sacrifice everything they have to win. Everything. He stopped walking and faced the High Chancellor directly. During their World War II, when their enemies dropped bombs on their cities, human civilization did not collapse. Instead, they moved their factories underground and built more weapons than before. When their ships were sunk, they built new ships faster than they could be destroyed. When their soldiers were killed, ordinary people picked up guns and kept fighting. That was hundreds of years ago, Zorvac said. They have grown beyond such behavior. They have not grown beyond it. They have simply been at peace. There is a big difference. Tarvek's golden eyes locked onto the High Chancellor's silver ones. I have met their veterans. I have talked with soldiers who served in their border conflicts. The capacity for extreme violence is still there, hiding just beneath the surface. And now the Jintari have woken it up. For the first time in a very long while, Zorvac seemed to take a warning seriously. What do you think we should do? Issue a formal statement condemning the Jintari attacks. Show the evidence that proves what they did. Demonstrate that the Council stands with justice and truth. Perhaps then the humans will calm down. The Jintari would never accept such a statement. They would leave the Council entirely. Better that than what is coming if we do nothing. But Zorvac shook his head slowly from side to side. The unity of He Council is more important than anything else. We have kept peace for 10,000 years by refusing to take sides in conflicts. If we blame the Jintari without perfect proof, we create a dangerous example for the future. Then you doom us all. Tarvik whispered sadly, far away aboard the Jintari flagship called the Vengeance. Emperor Valtos was looking at battle plans with great satisfaction. Human forces were gathering near the Kepler Reach, exactly where he had predicted they would go. The humans were outnumbered 3-1. Their ships were smaller. Their experience in real space combat was limited. This would be a simple victory. The humans have sent a final message, General Krath reported. They demand that we leave the disputed area. They demand that we hand over everyone responsible for the attacks on their civilians. Valtos laughed. It was an ugly sound, like ice cracking in the cold. Demands. From a species that has only been traveling in space for 300 years, such incredible arrogance from such small creatures. How should we respond, Emperor? Do not respond at all. Let our weapons be our answer. Veltos pointed at the tactical display showing the positions of both fleets. When we destroy their fleet, the humans will finally understand their true place in this galaxy. They will crawl back to their single little planet and never bother us again. The Jintari fleet moved forward, completely confident in their coming victory. They had won more than 100 battles against a dozen different species over thousands of years. They understood war as a careful dance of positioning and threatening. Where victory always went to those with more ships and bigger weapons, they had no idea what they were about to face. The human fleet waited in formation near a massive gas giant planet. They were using its powerful magnetic field to hide their true numbers from enemy sensors. Admiral Christopher Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Constitution, watching the enemy ships approach on his tactical screens. All ships report ready, Admiral Commander Rachel Stone announced. The Jantari will be in weapons range in 15 minutes. Good. Park's voice was steady and calm, almost relaxed. Signal the entire fleet. Begin Operation Thunderbolt immediately. Happen next would be studied by military historians across the galaxy for thousands of years to come. The human fleet did not wait for the Jintari to get close enough to fire. Instead, they launched a wave of missiles that had been modified with experimental faster-than-light engines. These missiles struck the enemy formation before their shields could activate properly. In the confusion that followed, squadrons of small human fighter craft came out of hiding places within the gas giant's rings. They attacked from directions the Jintari had not expected at all. But it was not just the tactics that Jintari shocked everyone watching across the galaxy. It was the absolute ferocity of the human warriors. Human pilots flew their damaged ships directly into enemy vessels rather than retreat to safety. Marine soldiers boarded Jintari cruisers and fought in close combat with a savagery that terrified their opponents. When one human destroyer was crippled and could not escape, its crew opened their own ship to space, choosing death over capture. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it finally ended, The Gentari fleet had been reduced to scattered survivors running away toward their home territory. The humans had lost almost half of their own ships, but they had won a victory that no one had thought possible. Emperor Valtos received the news in complete silence. His gray face showed nothing, but his hands were shaking. This could not be real. The Gentari had not lost a major battle in 3,000 years of warfare. He finally demanded, "How did they beat us?" General Kraft's voice was empty and hollow like a broken drum. "They did not fight like any species we have ever encountered, Emperor. They did not follow normal military rules. They did not try to reduce their own losses. They attacked without caring if they lived or died. It was as if death meant nothing to them at all. And we will bring more ships, more soldiers. We will crush them with numbers so large they cannot possibly survive." But even as Valtos spoke these words, he felt doubt growing in his stomach like a cold stone. He had expected the humans to be reasonable creatures, to recognize that they were weaker and accept their defeat like civilized beings. Instead, they had fought like wild animals defending their young. What kind of species were these humans really? And what would happen when they stopped defending and started attacking? The war that followed was unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever witnessed in 10,000 years of recorded history. Within 6 months, human forces had pushed deep into Gentari territory. They did not simply defeat enemy fleets in battle. They completely destroyed the entire Gentari military system piece by piece. Supply lines that brought food and fuel to warships were cut. Communication networks that allowed commanders to give orders were smashed. Planets that had never seen a single battle in their entire history suddenly found human ships appearing in their skies. But it was not the military victories that truly horrified the watching galaxy. It was the psychological warfare. Human commanders understood something that their enemies did not. War was not only fought with weapons and ships, it was also fought inside people's minds. They broadcast messages across all Gentari communication channels. These messages showed footage of human families who had been killed in the original attacks. Then they showed images of Gentari defeats. Over and over again, the same message was repeated. "Look what your Emperor did. Look what it cost you." They released recordings of captured Gentari soldiers describing the secret fleet and the Emperor's orders to attack civilians. They made the ordinary Gentari people question whether their own government had told them the truth about anything. And when Emperor Valtos ordered attacks on human civilian targets to strike back, the humans responded in a way no one expected. They did not become afraid or discouraged. They became angrier than before. Captain Marcus Webb was leading a marine company through the corridors of a captured Gentari space station when the news arrived. New Seattle, a human colony with 2 million people, had been completely destroyed. The Gentari had dropped weapons from orbit that reduced the entire colony to nothing but ash and dust. His soldiers stopped moving. For a long moment, the only sound was the quiet hum of the station's life support machines. Every face was pale. Every hand gripped their weapon a little tighter, sir. Sergeant Paula Hughes asked quietly, "What are your orders?" Marcus had known people living on New Seattle, friends he had grown up with, family members he had not seen in years. The grief hit him like a physical blow to his chest, but he forced it down, pushed it deep inside where it could not interfere with his mission. He would mourn later. Right now, he had work to do. "Continue the mission," he said. His voice was steady, but his eyes were cold in a way they had never been before. "Secure this station. Take prisoners if you can do it safely. But do not risk any of our people trying." His soldiers understood exactly what he meant. The rules of engagement had not officially changed on paper, but something had shifted in their hearts. The careful mercy they had shown to surrendering enemies was gone now. In its place was a fury that burned cold and bright like a star made of ice across every front line of the war. Similar changes were happening. Human forces that had accepted surrenders without hesitation now became ruthless and efficient. Gentari worlds that might have been left alone were systematically stripped of every military resource. The message was clear to everyone watching. You killed our families. You burned our homes. There will be no forgiveness for what you have done. High Chancellor Zorvax called an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. For the first time in thousands of years, real fear was visible on the faces of the assembled delegates. These ancient beings who had seen civilizations rise and fall were now genuinely scared. "This situation has become too dangerous," Zorvax declared. "The humans must be stopped. They are threatening the stability of the entire region." "With respect, High Chancellor," Daniel Marsh replied in a voice as cold as frozen metal, "humanity did not start this war. We did not slaughter innocent families. We did not ignore clear evidence while discussing proper procedures. We did what the Council refused to do. We defended our people. And in doing so, you have created chaos across the galaxy." The Valori leader's voice was shaking with something between anger and pure terror. "Your species does not understand what happens when civilizations truly commit to destroying each other. We understand perfectly well." Daniel's tone did not change at all. "We have destroyed ourselves before. We have watched our own cities burn to the ground. We have buried millions of our own people in mass graves. We know exactly what war means better than you ever will. And we know that some things are worth fighting for no matter the cost. What would you have us do?" the Kathrani delegate demanded. "Simply stand aside while you wipe out the Jantari completely? We have no interest in wiping them out. We want justice. The Emperor and everyone responsible for attacking our civilians will be held accountable for their crimes. The Jantari military capability that made these attacks possible will be taken apart. And every species in this galaxy will understand that humanity is not to be pushed around." Counselor Tarvik stepped forward from his seat. His golden eyes looked tired and haunted. "I have studied your species for many years, Ambassador. I have come to respect humanity in many ways. But what I see happening now troubles me deeply. You are not fighting just to win this war. You are fighting to prove something to everyone watching." Daniel met the Varelian's gaze without looking away. "Perhaps we are. For hundreds of years, every species in this council has looked at humanity and seen children playing pretend. Primitives who got lucky and stumbled into space travel. You have ignored our concerns. You dismissed our evidence. You left us alone to face enemies who wanted to destroy us. So yes, Counselor, we are proving a point. We are showing the galaxy what happens when you underestimate human beings, and when your point has been proven. What happens after that? Then perhaps we can finally have real peace. Peace built on mutual respect between equals, instead of older species looking down on younger ones." The war continued for another 8 months. Human forces surrounded the Jantari homeworld completely. Their fleet had grown so large that it blocked out the light from the stars when viewed from the planet's surface. Emperor Valtos, abandoned by his allies and left without any options, finally asked for peace, but the peace terms were not what the Council expected to hear. Admiral Park personally delivered humanity's demands to the Emperor's throne room. The once proud ruler of a mighty empire now looked small and broken, sitting on his crystal throne. "The Emperor will stand trial for crimes against humanity," Park announced. His voice echoed through the silent chamber. "The Jantari military will be reduced to a small defensive force only. Money will be paid to the families of every person killed in your attacks. And every species in this galaxy will officially acknowledge that humanity has the right to defend itself by any means we consider necessary." "These terms are unprecedented," Valtos protested weakly. His voice was barely louder than a whisper. "No species has ever forced such conditions on another. No species has ever attacked humanity and survived long enough to negotiate," Park replied simply. "You should be grateful we are willing to talk at all." The treaty was signed. The war officially ended. But as the human delegation left the council chamber after the signing ceremony, Zorvax spoke one final warning. "You have won this conflict, Ambassador Marsh, but you have also shown the entire galaxy exactly what humanity is capable of. Some species will fear you now. Some will hate you. And some will try to destroy you before you become too powerful to stop." Daniel turned back to face the High Chancellor. His expression was impossible to read. "They are welcome to try." The galaxy had changed forever. And humanity had changed it. 10 years had passed since the Great War with the Jantari Empire. The galaxy had transformed in ways that no one could have predicted when humanity first stepped into the council chamber as nervous newcomers. Human influence now spread across thousands of different worlds. Their technology, once laughed at as primitive and crude, now led scientific progress in dozens of important fields. Their culture, art, and music fascinated billions of beings who had never experienced anything like human creativity before. Their merchants and traders built economic networks that made entire regions wealthy and prosperous. But more than anything else, humanity's military reputation cast a long shadow across every corner of civilized space. The Galactic Council gathered for what would become the most important meeting in its long history. Representatives from every member species filled the Great Hall. Their faces were serious and thoughtful. High Chancellor Zorvax, now extremely old even by the standards of his ancient species, presided over the assembly for what he knew would be one of his final acts as leader. "We are gathered here to discuss a matter that concerns the survival of everything we have built," he began. His silver skin had dulled with age, but his voice still filled the chamber. "We must talk about the nature of peace in our galaxy and humanity's role within it." Ambassador Daniel Marsh sat among the human representatives. His hair had turned gray at the temples over the past decade. His eyes carried the weight of many difficult decisions. Beside him sat Admiral Park Counselor Tarvik, and a new generation of young diplomats who had grown up in a galaxy that viewed their species with equal amounts of admiration and fear. In the 10 years since the Jantari conflict ended, Zorvax continued, "We have all watched humanity rise to a position of influence that has no equal in our history. Their military power now exceeds that of any 3 council species put together. Their population has grown 10 times larger. Their colonies exist in hundreds of star systems." He paused to let his words settle over the assembly like falling leaves. "We have also watched how this has changed behavior throughout the galaxy. Conflicts that once would have become wars have been solved peacefully, but not through council discussions and debates. Through fear of what humanity might do if fighting broke out, species that used to threaten their neighbors now stay very carefully neutral. The peace we enjoy today is not the peace of friendship and understanding. It is the peace of everyone being afraid of the same thing." Daniel stood up to respond. "High Chancellor, with great respect, does it matter why there is peace? For 10,000 years, the Council kept order through careful talking and negotiation. That system failed completely. When the Jantari murdered our people, the Council did nothing useful. When we showed proof of their crimes, you asked for more proof. How many of our families died while you held meetings about procedure?" "We have admitted our failures," Zorvax replied. "But the question we must answer today is not about the past. It is about what comes next. Humanity has shown that when you feel threatened, you are capable of violence that shocks even those of us who have studied warfare for thousands of years. What happens when the next disagreement arises? What happens when humanity decides that a threat must be removed before it can grow?" "We are not looking for fights," Daniel insisted. "Everything we have done was in response to attacks against our people. That is exactly what worries us." It was Counselor Tarvik who spoke now, rising from his seat among the Varelian representatives. "I have spent 15 years living among humans. I have studied your history, your thoughts, your incredible capacity for both creating beautiful things and destroying everything in your path. I have come to believe that you are the most dangerous species this galaxy has ever produced." The chamber filled with quiet murmurs of agreement and concern. Tarvik raised his 4 hands to ask for silence. "But dangerous does not mean evil. Humanity is dangerous because you care so deeply about things. You care about your families, your friends, your ideas and beliefs. You care so much that you will give up everything to protect what you love. That incredible devotion is what makes you capable of creating great art and great science and great acts of kindness. It is also what makes you capable of terrible destruction." He turned to face the entire assembly. "The question is not whether humanity is dangerous. We all know the answer to that question already. The question is whether the rest of us can learn to live alongside that danger. Whether we can build a peace based not on fear, but on respect and working together toward shared goals." Zorvax nodded his aged head slowly. "This brings us to why we are here today. The Council has prepared a resolution that we hope will create a new understanding between all species." He gestured with one thin hand, and glowing text appeared throughout the chamber for everyone to read. The Galactic Council officially recognizes the right of all member species to defend themselves against attacks. The Council further admits that the peace of the past 10,000 years was not perfect, and that changes are needed. However, the Council also issues a formal warning to every species in the galaxy with special attention to humanity. The text moved to show its final section: "Never bring humans to war." This is the Galaxy Council's final warning. Those who start conflicts with humanity do so knowing they will face the consequences alone. The Council will not step in to protect attackers from what happens to them. But humanity must also understand that great power brings great responsibility. The galaxy is watching. History will judge your actions. The peace we build today will determine whether civilization survives into tomorrow. Daniel read the words carefully several times. Then he looked up at the gathered representatives from hundreds of different worlds. The Council speaks of humanity as if we are a force of nature, like a storm that destroys everything in its path. But we are simply people. Ordinary people who want the same things every species wants. Safety for our families. A chance to build something good. The opportunity to give our children a better future than we had. He stepped forward so his voice would reach every corner of the Great Hall. We did not ask to be feared. We did not want to become the galaxy's police force or judge. All we ever asked was to be treated with basic dignity, to have our lives considered valuable, to be seen as equals instead of primitive children who wandered into space by accident. But if fear is what keeps more human children from dying in senseless attacks, then we accept it. If our reputation stops the next Emperor Valtos from building his secret fleet, then our soldiers did not die for nothing. If the galaxy must give warnings about what happens when humanity is provoked, then let those warnings be heard clearly. He turned to look at the human delegation, then back at the Council. We accept your resolution. We understand the heavy burden it places on our shoulders. And we promise, before this assembly and before the judgment of history, that humanity will use its power responsibly. We will not attack first. We will not try to conquer others. We will not become the monsters some fear we might become. His voice grew harder and more determined. But we will never forget what happened when we were underestimated. We will never again trust our safety to those who failed us. And we will never allow our people to be slaughtered while others discuss whether our deaths are important enough to care about. You have given your warning to the galaxy. Now hear ours in return. Humanity stands ready to defend peace. We stand ready to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We stand ready to bring justice to those who prey upon the weak and innocent, but never bring us to war. Because we remember every wrong done to us. We adapt to every challenge. We overcome every obstacle. And we do not lose. The chamber fell completely silent. Then, slowly, the Varelian representatives stood up from their seats. The Kathrani followed. One by one, species from across the galaxy rose to their feet. Not in fear of human power, but in recognition of something new. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not a species to be controlled or dismissed or provoked without consequences. They were partners in building civilization. Equals who had earned their place among the stars through blood and sacrifice and determination that would not break. As everyone began leaving the chamber, Tarvik walked over to Daniel. "You spoke well today," the Varelian said. "But I must ask one question. Do you truly believe humanity can keep those promises? Can your species choose peace as easily as you choose war?" Daniel thought about the question for a long moment. "I do not know for certain," he admitted. "We are still learning and growing, and struggling with the same problems that almost destroyed us long ago. But I know this much. Every generation of humans has faced the choice between our best nature and our worst impulses. And every generation has found a way to move forward. Not perfectly, not without making mistakes, but forward." He looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's great windows. "We will make mistakes. We will stumble sometimes. We will not always live up to what we promise, but we will keep trying, because that is who we are." not conquerors or monsters. Just people. Flawed and stubborn and passionate people who refuse to give up no matter what. Tarvik nodded slowly. Perhaps that is enough. Perhaps that is all anyone can truly offer. Perhaps Daniel agreed. And perhaps someday the galaxy will see us not as a warning to fear, but as friends to trust. I hope that day comes, Ambassador. For all our sakes, they stood together in silence, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there among those distant lights, humanity was building new things, creating new art, exploring new worlds. Children were being born on 100 different planets, looking up at alien skies and dreaming of futures their ancestors could never have imagined. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had changed it, and the final warning would stand for all time. It's proof of what happens when the universe makes the mistake of underestimating the small. Violent, beautiful, terrible, wonderful species called humanity. Never bring humans to war. Some lessons only need to be taught once,